Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Straight Up with MS and all its crazy little circles here on MS&Me Radio, brought to you by the MS Global Support Network. I'm Patty Long, and you can find me on Twitter at MSNit for Life, and I spell that MSENIT, the number 4, LIFE. I have some big plans in store, so it's only Twitter right now, but it takes time. You know, things for me take a lot of time because there's a lot of learning involved, and I'm a little slow learner now, but yeah, they are coming down the road, hopefully really soon, so I will let you know when. But for now, just on Twitter and on MS&Me Radio, doing this show, and on YouTube you can find us at MS&Me Media, and then you can find the playlist for all my shows there too. So anyways, getting on with it. You know, I have this crazy life, and I always have. I've done the wildest things, some of them you might consider stupid, depending on who you are. I've always been a thrill seeker and stuff like that. So when I'm telling all these stories of my life, and you know, you always tell the best ones, you know, getting caught in a thunderstorm on the lake in a boat with no lights and in the dark, and guiding your way across a big humongous lake with nothing but the light from the lightning to guide you. You know, I mean, these are the kinds of things that happen to me. So, I mean, and climbing waterfalls just because it was dangerous. And, you know, I did all this crazy adventure-y stuff, and my adventures aren't over, you know. And I went last summer to the UK, and then I had the craziness back here at home, you know, and it's just been wild, one thing after another. And while some of it is the kind of crazy that you won't, some of it isn't. And you know, when I was in the UK, my stories, I guess and I didn't know this at the time, but you know, I would tell them my stories and stuff, and they started calling me Lizzie Drippin'. Now, being from the U.S., I had no clue who Lizzie Drippin' was. And Lizzie Drippin' is this character who makes up all these stories, and they're fantasy, but mine are real. And 90% of them I have absolute proof of, either because it's a family member was involved, so they're still around, or I have pictures and photographic evidence. Very rarely did things happen where I didn't have one or the other. But my latest happened last Friday. And honestly, hubby didn't think about it. Okay, he never thought about this at all. Because, you know, he doesn't read the directions. And if he did, he wouldn't follow them. But he doesn't even read the directions on stuff. So, you know, the thought of this happening never even crossed his mind. And then afterwards, well, I'll tell you that after I tell you what happened. But it's all true, because I am not Lizzie Drippins. Instead, I am me, and I just have these things happen that sound like you made them up. So anyways, and this is true with my son too. You know, he would tell stories. They were supposed to write stories at school, And his teacher would say, well, it was supposed to be what really happened over the summer. And he'd be like, well, this really did happen over the summer. And she wouldn't believe him. And then I'd have to get involved. And then she wouldn't believe me. So, what can I say? But anyways, I was sitting on the deck, pedaling away, loving it, because I finally got my pedals outside, y'all, and I'm so excited because I'm pedaling outside, and I love being outside and listening to the birds and the wind and all the nature sounds, and so I'm sitting out here pedaling, and I'm talking to my friends on Twitter, and we're having a blast, and I glance up and I see him, and he's got our grass spreader where it's like this container, and you spin the wheel and it shoots the seed like 20 something feet, right? And I remember thinking, oh gosh, and laughing to myself because the dirt wasn't prepped for it. And around here, with the red clay, things don't just grow, if your dirt's not loose enough for it to sink in. So I was kind of laughing to myself because I know that, it would come up really well in the flower beds. And then I'd hear him fussing about how grass will only grow in the flower beds. And I can hear this thing going on in my head. So I get back to my Twitter and don't think anything else of it. But he didn't have grass seed in it. He had granular powdered poisonous stuff in it to kill ants, spiders, and 50 other bugs or more. I mean, it said like 50 plus or something like that on the package. And he had that in that spreader, and the wind was blowing it wasn't like whipping blowing, but it was blowing. It was blowing enough that it wasn't just the tip tops of the trees rustling. It was down here where we're at as well. And I'm not paying it any attention. And he's an idiot. And then he gets finished and he goes in the house. And he's put his stuff away. And I'm still sitting here pedaling away. And then it was like this, oh my gosh, because my cheek, I could feel it hitting my glasses. Now, I didn't feel anything except for the fact that my glasses weren't sitting right. And I was like, what the heck? And I ran inside and looked, and both eyes were swelling up. I mean, and they were swelling fast. So I start flushing my eyes out, pushing him out of the way of the sink, and asking him, what was in the spreader. And he told me, and I was like freaking out because I've got poison in my eyes. So I'm sitting there flushing my eyes out for like 10 minutes, and he was standing there kind of impatient for the first couple anyways, with a toothbrush in his hand because he was about to brush his teeth, had the water running, had the toothpaste on his toothbrush, and about to get started when I came and barged in there. So I start flushing my eyes out, and he sets the toothbrush down and he walks out into the bedroom, and he like goes out of order, which is really, really hard for him because going out of order is something he normally would never ever do for any reason. But he could see that my eyes were swelling up, and he's like, that's not the poison, you must have gotten stung by something. I said, well, on both eyes, do you see anything? Do you see a bug or a sting or anything? And he's like, no. And my eyes were like swelling and swelling and swelling. And after about 10 minutes, I let him brush his teeth, and then he left and headed out to meet the boys because that's why he was in such a hurry. And I went back to flushing my eyes out. And I flushed them out and flushed them out and flushed them out. And then I took me a shower and flushed them out some more. And then the next morning, when I woke up, they were even more swollen. They were about completely swollen shut. And, as I sat up throughout the day, the swelling would go down, and I started feeling a lot of pain in my cheeks and in pretty much my whole face. And my face was kind of funky looking, because now I've got swelling in my eyes and dropping down into my cheeks. So I had this extra jaw for a while. And this went on Saturday, Sunday. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, because each day it was a little less swelling. I have a doctor's appointment Monday, and I'm going to Atlanta, So I had planned on driving myself, really, but my son Cody took me, which I'm glad he did. We had a blast, y'all. We got to zigzag through the traffic and in and out and in and out and in and out across all the different lanes as we had them. And that's always fun with Cody because he's actually knows what he's doing. He's the only one that has inherited my driving skills. So, I loved racing cars and stuff like that when I was young, and seeing how much speed I could get out of them. And the thing about doing that is you better have the skill and the knowledge of how to do it and when enough is enough. And when you're going down the highway, how fast is too fast. And that depends on the traffic flow. So Cody knows all this stuff, and he's a really good driver. So we had a blast. And I told him, I said, the swaying, if I don't look at the road, and I usually don't, but if I'm, looking down or whatever, and I'm just feeling the sway of the motion, it's almost like I'm back at the lake and in the boat, because he does it in such a smooth, rocking back and forth fashion. And of course you wouldn't have to do this if people around here knew what a left lane was for. Idiots. But anyways, so we had a great time on the way down there, and I get to my doctor's appointment, and I look in the mirror, and my eyes aren't swollen anymore, so I didn't have to tell Dr. English about that. Thank goodness, because I had enough to talk to him about, and I had my cards, and I always go in there with my note cards. And I have note cards that have improvements. And I have note cards, and that's what it says at the top, improvement. And then I've got the note cards that on top of each of the note cards that has improvements listed on it. And depending on how many or whatever, I might have, a deck of 15, 20 cards by the time I get done. So, with the whole thing. But I've got, improvements and questions, and then the biggest issues that I have had since I saw him last. So I have my questions and stuff together, and that way I'm prepared to talk to my doctor. So when he came in, he's like, how are you? And I said, I'm excited. He said, why? I said, because I've got improvements to share galore. And I started reading off my improvements. I had cognitive improvements, and I've got physical improvements in that I can run again. And I thought that was the most exciting thing ever. I can actually run, not, pretend run, but still at a walking pace, but actually run. And I may not be winning any records, but I'm really running, and I can run without getting winded, as long as I'm just going from 200 feet at the most, I think, is what I've done. But as far as running, and then I can jog as well, but I don't like to jog as much, and I don't do it very often on pavement, although I did on Monday, running at top speed from the gas pump into the store to buy my bottle of water, because I forgot to bring one from home and we needed to be on the road. So I ran And I always have to fill up as we're leaving and then fill up as soon as we get back, because it takes exactly one tank to get from that gas station at the highway to my doc's office and back to that gas station at the highway again, which is, I mean, it's crazy, but that's the way it is. So I always stop and fill up on the way out and then again on the way in, and I ran all the way to the store and back. So that was, for me, this is an amazing improvement that I can really put it towards a top speed kind of run, and run fast and run well. And so this was my largest on the physical side. And cognitively, I was telling y'all last week, I can pay attention, I can have a conversation, I can remember what I'm talking about, and I can follow instructions. And I don't have the whole list in front of me, but I have this big long list of improvements. And so we're on this conversation of my questions now. And the first question I asked him was about my MRIs. And how can you compare the MRI from one year to the next? Because I can't find a numbering system. And he looked at me and he says, I wish there was one. I wish there was. And I'm like, you're kidding me. There is not a numbering system or sequence at all. And he said, nope. So you have to literally, and this is what he tells me, he says you have to literally find one slide and then find another one that appears to be the same exact section of the brain. And he said that's, one of the things about neurology is that there isn't an easy way to pull up two exact slides from two different years. And I've been trying to do that because I wanted to show y'all some comparisons from my MRIs. So we get through my questions and discussing seizure medicines. And on that list of improvements was that my headaches aren't anywhere near as bad. And so we decided no seizure medicine for now because my headaches aren't bad. And he thinks that the first one, the one that left me drooling with side effects and slinging slobber everywhere as a result, and that I'm still dealing with because my tears, and this was part of why that bug stuff getting in my eyes was so bad, is because my tears don't work right. They fall apart before I finish blinking, so they're not working right. And that's a lingering side effect, and that dizziness was a lingering side effect. And he went from dizziness, no, I said dizziness, and then I also told him that I've been fighting a little bit of back pain that I think is from muscle spasms, but it's not been bad, and that I've been fighting with those pulled muscles, and that I was an idiot for doing it, and showed him even how I pulled them, and he was just grinning at me. And I said, but I felt something that I hadn't felt before. And I said something about the dizzy still affecting me, and all these things. And he starts then naming the rest of the stuff that I had on my list that has been being a problem. And I looked at him. He said, that's all in your C2 vertebrae. That's all in your neck. And he said, when's the last time we did an MRI of your spine? And I told him I couldn't remember, but it was quite a while back, because the ones of your spine, if your doctor can't prove to the insurance company that it's a necessity and you've had one within 3 or 4 years, they're going to deny it. And so you have to have all this proof. But now we have a reason. Or I shouldn't say proof why, but reasons why, they have to have them. So we have these reasons, and it's these particular issues that I've been having, or symptoms, as a doctor would say. And most people would say, but I call them issues because you can solve issues, right? But he says that's all from this lesion that we know is there, and it's going to be necessary, and it had been 4 years, so I'm safe there, and we'll be doing that in August and see if that's been active, or it's just that everything else has gotten better, so now I'm noticing it more and more. I don't know. But the standing up and getting cold instantly from standing up, that, he says, is from a lesion in the top part of my spine, in because the brain MRI only shows to the tip top of the brainstem. So this is between the brainstem and the shoulders, and so we'll see what happens when it happens, and I'm not going to worry about having an active disease or it being progression or any of that kind of stuff, because that's just not who I am. And so he's doing that, and we're continuing on the conversation and stuff, and I'm telling him that I've been having a great time and winning at my pool matches, which tonight I get to shoot pool. I have 8-ball now on Wednesdays, y'all. So I am recording on a day that I'm going to shoot pool again, which I really like. So anyways, that's off subject, but that's MS, right? We tend to throw these little tidbits in our stories. So anyways, this could be a drinking time. Every time I say anyways, take a drink, y'all. Just kidding. But it could be, but still, just kidding. It's crazy though. So we're in the middle of this conversation, and I tell him, I said, I think I'm filling my pool. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, you're filling it and it's draining all at the same time. And I grinned at him. I said, well, I guess I just need to plug the hole, huh? So, I'm filling it faster, or else these spinal lesions would have already, especially the ones that are in my neck, and all, that would be a real big issue. But yeah, the dizziness, the getting up and being cold, the low back pain, the muscle spasms, all of that, the coordination problems I have, which I'm coordinated as far as the things that I'm training for on a daily basis. I get my coordination back. That's how I do it, so, but I still can't touch my nose, and things like that. I still clonk myself in the head with a hairbrush. So there's still these issues that I haven't beat that have to do with coordination. And it's not all eye-hand coordination. And I was telling them, I improve everything. I do everything through exercise, including my cognitive skills, because I have exercises to reteach my brain. I said, and I play kids games. I know it sounds silly, but I play kids games. I said, they're more fun. Plus, I know they work, so a lot of kids games, because they are meant for kids, are also meant to teach them the same exact skills that I need to relearn. And then others are just plain more fun, like the ones on the game. But, on my phone. My phone's apps, I play some some that are more adult meant, but most of them are really kids, like Dots and Company or Frozen Mania. Those are really kids games. Um, and I play a word search game on my phone that is in groups, so I remember words. So I'm doing all these cognitive things on my phone, and then I also do cognitive things that are not on my phone, that are like actual toys and things for kids. And then I've got these little puzzle pieces that you take apart and try and put together, well, I shouldn't say puzzles, pieces, even though they are, because that's like something different. But these are little metal shapes and twists and turns, and you have to figure out how to take them apart and put them together. And all of this is teaching me. It's teaching me stuff. I watch the exact same show over and over and over and over and over. And why? Because that is how children learn, is by repetitive, and repetitive whatever. That is how we learn as children, and that is how we learn as adults when it comes to relearning all this stuff that has drained our pool. We're trying to fill it back up so everything works. So by doing the same things that we did when we were kids, in a way, we can rebuild them, and we can get better in this fashion because we are putting more water in our pool. Does that make sense? I hope it did, because, yeah, I get better and worse at the same time. And how can that be? But, it kind of is. So something is going on in my neck that either just wasn't recognizable to me as something, or is important to me to tell about that time because I had worse issues, or I have some activity going on in this old lesion that we haven't been able to check on a yearly basis like we would the brain lesions. So I will find that out in August, and I'm not going to worry about it, because frankly what I'm doing is working. So the last thing my doc said to me was, whatever you are doing, keep doing it, because it's working, and it works. And so hopefully I will get to have more discussions with him on exactly what I'm doing, because we spent like an hour together, and so I was only able to show him some of the things, and because most of the time we were discussing the issues and problems that I was having. So anyways, that will be for another appointment where I'll show him more of what I do that has made me better physically and cognitively. So until next time, y'all, don't worry about nothing, and don't fear anything, but instead smile big, smile often, laugh a lot, a whole lot. Now, I mean it. And most importantly, love yourself, your whole self, including the wacky and messed up parts of you, because that's a part of you. And I hate to say it, but it is. It's a part of you. So love it too. Thanks, guys. Bye.